If Hollywood has taught me one thing, it is, well, come to think of it, Hollywood has probably taught me a lot of things, from cool guys don't look at explosions, to always increase your chances of survival by splitting up in a dangerous situation. But the most important thing of all of them is that there is no better form of entertainment media than a trilogy. And that's why today, after the tremendous success we've had with Ailstorm and Running Wild, as our Jubilee video, we once again turn to piracy. And by that I mean, we once again point our flintlocks on the chest of a hard-working band and rob them of their well-thought-out songs to create a few moments of mildly enjoyable content. The shortest straw has been pulled for Monument. This very classical British heavy metal band is definitely not for cat people. But they did prepare a few treats for those with an interest in history. The opener of their 2018 album Hellhound is one of the sweetest of them all, inviting us to listen to the saga about a Scottish lad by the name of Captain William Kidd. As a bit of a prologue for the song, we have to start William Kidd's story in the famous Scottish pirate nest and intergalactic space citadel. This is where he was born in October 1654 and probably spent his youth before setting his first sails on a voyage to the New World. It is unclear when exactly he arrived there, but if we are to believe the song, it's sometime after England had forced the Dutch to surrender the settlement of New Amsterdam and promptly renamed it to New York. Here, Kidd would spend his time dealing with business matters, tending to a 17th century LinkedIn profile, and possibly learning the ways of the water, by setting sails as a seafarer's apprentice. We know for sure that piracy had become Kidd's full-time job in 1689. Keep in mind that we are in the golden age of privateering, where plundering ships was not necessarily a crime, but strongly encouraged by the wide range of rivaling European governments struggling for a foothold on the American continent. Many rogue captains could raid coastal towns, hunt down merchants, or even attack opposing privateer crews with no risk of being punished, as long as their hostility only turned to the declared enemies of the country whose flag they hoisted. One of these freelance captains was the Frenchman Jean Fatin, under whose command Kidd set sail until he seized the opportunity in the summer of 1689 to steal his ship from under Fatin's nose. From then on, Kidd and his crew supported the English fleet in the Caribbean seas in their struggle against the French for a while. In 1695, Kidd was tasked by Richard Coote of Bellomont, a highly influential English governor, to extend their attacks from French ships to also include other pirates not under English contract. The Scotsman received a letter of marque from the King of England himself, allowing him to keep 90% of the loot he captured. Funded by a range of English noblemen, Kidd bought a new ship and called it the Adventure Galley, which the song also mentions. This trusty frigate seemed predestined for hunting pirates, combining both sails and oars for speed and maneuverability the ships would lack during times of calm winds. At this point, we can also assume that his crew really did their best to serve him, as the sailors were handpicked by Captain Kidd himself. However, during a rather vulgar incident that involved the mooning of a royal vessel, a lot of the crew was ransacked into military service in England, and had to be replaced by a bunch of dubious fellows from New York. After the Adventure Galley had set sail in September 1696 to finally start catching some of the damn pirates, another large part of the crew had died due to cholera before they had reached the West Indies. It's easy to see why the sailors were not very happy with their captain, especially because their enterprise did not turn out to be a great success. Ship by ship evaded them, and whispers of mutiny indeed accompanied the privateers, like the rolling waves. The bad mood on board amounted in a tragic end in 1697, when a ship gunner by the name of William Moore prompted Kidd to attack a Dutch ship. The captain refused, since the Netherlands were not at war with England, which meant that an attack on the ship would be outright piracy. The discussion heated, and in his rage, Kit killed the poor bastard of a gunner. That's what the murder in the song's lyrics refers to. Overshadowed by this depressing turn of events, a light of hope seemed to shine when Kit managed to capture the richly packed trade vessel Quebec Merchant in January 1698. He renamed the ship to Adventure Prize, hoping to finally catch a break, but there was a slight problem. Even though the ship was sailing under protection of the French crown, its captain was an Englishman. Therefore, back in the kingdom, accusations of piracy were raised against William Kidd. When he dropped anchor before Madagascar to repair his ship in April 1698, all but 13 crew members deserted, ironically to set sail under Robert Culliford, one of the pirates Kidd was supposed to hunt down. Adding insult to injury, Culliford was an old rival of Kidd's. The two didn't get along very well, ever since the former had stolen the leather ship, way back in 1690. Humiliated, Kidd burned his trusted adventure galley and set sail back to the Caribbean Sea on the Adventure Prize, where he became aware of how fast the tables could turn. Now, the royal pirate hunters were after him. As a consequence, he got rid of his ship and sailed north undercover, hoping to use his influence to persuade powerful individuals to support him in his upcoming trial. However, Lord Richard Coote, the very nobleman that sent Kidd on his mission, was now afraid that the accusations of piracy could carry over to him, and had decided that a pawn sacrifice was in order. He promised to be merciful, but when Kidd reached Boston, Coote captured his former privateer in July 1699 and delivered him to London. Here, the High Court of Admiralty found Kidd guilty in 5 cases of piracy and 1 case of murder. On May 23, 1701, our pirate captain found his bitter end on one of the gallows beside the River Thames. All in all, William Kidd has probably deserved his place in the Hall of Fame of Pirates. Monument highlights this accurately in the refrain. Maybe the legendary status grew from the myths about his still unfound treasure, but it certainly also has something to do with a certain discrepancy the band wants us to think about. The question of whether Kidd was actually a ruthless cutthroat of a pirate, or just fulfilling the task of a legitimate privateer, even the political chaos that reigned in the late 17th century England, I think it seems very possible that Kidd was a pawn that fell victim to a greater scheme of things, while still not being the nicest person on the 7 seas that didn't always fully stick to his mandate. In other words, the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. I'd be interested to hear what you think about that. All in all, I'm very fond of the song, as it gives a nicely summed up overview without going into too much detail, which is where mistakes are bound to happen at some point. It's a worthy opener for an album I definitely recommend listening to if you enjoy British heavy metal. And let's be honest, who doesn't? Now, all that remains is to thank you for watching, and reminding you that I'm very happy about any comments, especially song or band requests for future videos. See you next time, and until then, stay true.